The Souls community is fractured. Not unlike the very Elden Ring itself, it is difficult to come upon a comment section wherein there isn't a single thread composed of angry Souls fans arguing over each other. There almost isn't a single general topic you can choose for discussion that won't result in a bitter argument forming. Bosses, weapons, summoning, builds, sorcery, and incantations. Really talking about Elden Ring in general runs the risk of someone being angry. However tarnished, it wasn't always this bad. So please, allow me to give my personal account on how Elden Ring fractured the Souls community.
Hey, so before we get into it, I'm gonna make a statement or two. So, first, I was sick when I recorded the first few sections of this video, so just, have mercy on me, please. I'm a little sniffly. Another thing is that in my room, I have, I have these pet lizards, right? And I have a frog. And, you gotta feed them, right? So, you might hear crickets in the background, right? I swear, it's not because I'm boring, okay? It's because, yeah. Anyway, I'd like to start by introducing you to two hypothetical individuals, Lucas and Fernand. Fernand discovered the Souls series at a really dark time in his life. He had no friends, he had a crappy job that he hated, he lived alone in an apartment, and he probably thinks Konosuba is a good anime.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Then he discovers a game called Dark Souls. Seems pretty cool, so he gives it a shot. He hears it's hard, but it can't be as hard as being understaffed during rush hour. He breezes through the undead asylum and is given the mission of ringing 2 bells. And the undead burg with its Taurus demon and the dragon bridge is a little tough, but eventually he does make it to that first bell. Just not before running into the bell gargoyles. Now, anyone who's got experience with Dark Souls 1 can tell you that locking onto the bell gargoyles is not a good idea. But Fernand doesn't understand the game on that level, and he's having a rough go. He's getting his ass kicked so badly and so consistently that it took him until the 4th attempt to realize that there's a second gargoyle, at which he promptly shits his pants. But the real tipping point came on attempt 5. Before going into the boss, he had 10,000 souls saved up, and he would keep dying with them and retrieving them until the 5th attempt, at which point he got knocked out of the building while trying to recover them. Damn. And this was devastating. I mean, really, what a ridiculous way to go out. He got effortlessly knocked off a building while trying to recover his precious souls, which he had been saving up for hours. He hadn't spent a single soul after he beat the asylum demon. You can argue that was dumb of him, but hey, he's a guy who likes to grind up a lot of them and spend them all at once to see those stats really skyrocket. Can you really blame him? It's like when you pop the entire fruit roll up in your mouth all at once. It's good. Fernand was angry. It was 1 in the morning, and usually he'd be in bed by now. But he simply refused to end on a loss this debilitating. To him, it felt like the game was laughing at him. He got his ass kicked and his souls taken away. He has nothing. And if you're an avid Souls player, then you probably know what's coming next. Till this point, Fernand had been playing carefully. After all, he didn't want to lose the massive nest egg of souls he saved up, but none of that mattered now. He had nothing left to lose. So he spends the next 2 hours of the night bashing his head against this brick wall of a fight over and over, attempt after attempt, slowly but surely learning how to fight them. On the 17th attempt, he got one of them low, and the other one is at half, but Fernand is low. One more shot from either of them is going to kill him. But at this moment, they're both pretty spread apart. So he just says, fuck it. He runs toward the closer one. It prepares a swing, but he dodges it and swiftly finishes the job, turning his attention to the other one on the other side of the arena. As he closes the distance, it readies a fire breath attack. He rolls around it, absolutely wailing on this thing from behind, severing its tail. Just 2 more attacks to finish the job. The next few seconds happen in slow motion. As the starting animation for his blade begins, the gargoyle prepares to swing with its halberd. As Fernand lands his first strike, the gargoyle prepares to bring his halberd down. As he swings his sword for a second time, endeavoring to finish this once and for all, The gargoyle brings his mighty halberd down at breakneck speed. It was over. He lost. Or at least he was sure he did. But it seemed like he'd done it. The beast was felled. He didn't even realize until this moment that his heart was pounding out of his chest. He was all sweaty and everything, and in the heat of this glorious victory, he let out a mighty roar. This was the greatest he'd ever felt playing a video game, and it had only just started. He'd go on to repeat this for the rest of the game, each failure making him stronger, and each triumph more triumphant than the last. This settled it. This was officially his favorite game, and he was officially a Souls fan. And he would replay the game over and over and over. He had to share this with someone, and eventually he met a friend at work, Lucas, someone who had an interest in fantasy games. Bro, have you heard of Dark Souls? No, Lucas would say. What's it all about? So Fernand would gift him a copy of the game on Steam and keep up with him over the phone. Lucas would play through the game and have a pretty good time, but then he got to the Bell Gargoyles. Fernand was ecstatic. He was ready to see Lucas get crushed the same way he was. He couldn't wait to see him get pulverized and learn to adapt. I mean, he didn't specifically want to see him get pulverized, but it's always an adventure to see how new Souls players adapt. Again, though, he would have to hear all about it from the other side of a phone. He gets a text from Lucas. "I'm starting the battle." "Good luck," Ferdinand texts back. And then he waited. But the response he got was not what he had expected. "I beat it." "What?" "I beat it." "How? Wait, seriously? In one try? No way, send me the clip." And Fernand watched in this clip as his friend marched up to the first gargoyle, accompanied by 2 white phantoms, and promptly gang-spanked it so badly that it was dead before the second gargoyle had the chance to attack. He too got spanked 3v1 style. And Fernand was kinda disappointed. Where was the struggling? Where was the slow but sure improvement until the eventual glorious victory? There was none of that. It was a simple and boring curb stomp. No struggling, no adapting, no overcoming, no insane lows where it felt like he couldn't possibly win, followed by a Rocky-level montage of him slowly starting to kick the boss's ass. Just a stale and relatively easy fight. And there's nothing wrong with wanting an easier fight. That's why the system is there. Well, that and for multiplayer, but that's a separate issue. Lucas was just playing the game. He didn't know that it was considered some kind of sacrilege to summon on your first attempt on your first playthrough, and that's because it's not to. But to people like Ferdinand, who had to struggle through the game and eventually came out on top through perseverance and determination, it seemed like such a cop-out, or workaround, or complete sidestepping of the game's carefully built challenge. And that's how a lot of people think. There are 2 types of prevailing mindsets in the Souls community. There are Fernands who believe that the game is a rite of passage, a test of your skill and ability to keep throwing your head at a wall and persevere, of your ability to be knocked down and to get back up. And there's Lucases, who don't really see the game any type of particular way and just kinda want to play it. And that was pretty much the discourse back in, like, Dark Souls 3 era or something. And honestly, it wasn't that much of a problem back then, ironically because it was more of a problem. I understand that sounds confusing, but let me explain what I mean here. The Dark Souls player base was simply more elitist back then. I'm sure that hypothetical story between Fernand and Lucas has happened in real life many times, and ended in Lucas becoming a Fernand and embracing the Fernandness, I guess. This is because the fanbase was a lot more concentrated. Being into Dark Souls felt a lot more like being in some kind of club. After all, this was back when Dark Souls had its reputation for being soul-crushingly difficult, which, even then, wasn't really true, but it had some merit. Because if you weren't good enough to beat the bosses in those games, if you got stuck on Ornstein and Smo or Abyss Watchers, that was kinda it for you.
Wow. What the fuck? Wow. 0 chance. The problem is his combo strings are absolutely ridiculous. He can do 4 to 5 attacks non-stop. So you have to continuously dodge, and you have to fight him enough that you can memorize the attack strings so you know which way to dodge so you can maybe get a hit in afterwards. But that's Oh, here's a second you can strike. And that's what it is. Great boss.
The games had this way of automatically weeding out people who were less skilled. For example, in Dark Souls 3, if you couldn't beat the tutorial boss, you couldn't play the game. Period. And I bet you think that's kind of stupid for me to say, considering pyromancers and black firebombs exist. But for one, a new player won't exactly understand how potent these are against tutorial bosses. And two, I had to sit in a Discord call for 4 hours with 2 of my friends while I was trying to get them into Dark Souls 3. I was coaching them the entire time, telling them about black firebombs, telling them about how they need to pick Pyromancer and spam Udex Gundyr to death with fireballs. Well, actually that's dishonest. It took one of them 5 hours, 3 for the other. So average of 4, but besides the point. I had to remind them every other attempt to lock onto the boss. And if it wasn't for my constant reassurance, one of them was just gonna quit. So yeah. Typically, the casual players who weren't skilled enough got weeded out pretty hard in those older games. I mean, even summoning will only get you so far before you run out of embers or humanity. So again, if you didn't have the perseverance to really throw yourself at that boss over and over, you probably weren't getting your money's worth. And then it happened. Elden Ring. Elden Ring is different. When you get stomped by that tree sentinel for the first time, you realize something. Wait, I don't have to fight this cuck. I can go anywhere, do anything. Go way up north and there's 2 much easier, much more approachable dungeons right there for you. There are weapons everywhere just waiting for you to find them. Do you want to summon somebody? Summon all you want, it's free now. No more pesky embers. Heck, why's it gotta be a player? Now there's a metric frog ton of NPCs that you can summon and upgrade to make them tankier. Remember how I said my friends were struggling with Udex Gundyr? And remember how I told them exactly which equipment to go with in order to cheese him? Let me introduce you to a little weapon called the Bloodhound's Fang. At launch, this weapon was an absolute menace.
Santa's got something very special for you. What if this happened to you?
As someone who was running invasions on day 1, I can tell you that literally every other invasion was a BHF user. It was a plague. Really easy to see why. For one thing, it just deals great damage. Put on top of that, it also deals bleed, which is extremely effective against bosses and, well, players with bad connections. Not to mention, it has low enough requirements that pretty much anyone can pour a couple stats into it and use it really early. But the thing that really made this weapon a pain in the ass was its weapon art. A wide arcing slash that follows up into iframe city with another powerful slash at the end. Not only is this an incredibly safe move to use against bosses, players who aren't intimately familiar with this move are going to have an extremely difficult time countering it. Although if you have enough experience, countering someone who's just spamming the weapon art is, it's child's play.
Get fucked.
But at launch, when everyone was new at the game, it was a force to be reckoned with, even in the hands of a complete idiot.
That hit? What?
And it wasn't just this weapon, there were lots of completely busted noob weapons at launch. Sword of Night and Flame, Rivers of Blood, Moonveil, etc, etc. Some of these weapons are still broken to this day. Here's the fun part. Let's say that you're a new player, just barely beating a boss with one of these OP weapons even though you were spamming the weapon art the entire time. And let's say that you were so excited about your victory that you posted a clip of it online. That's when you start hearing boss music.
Yes! Yes!
Enter the gatekeepers. Let the fireworks begin. Alright, so there's a ridiculous amount to unpack here, but I'm going to do my best. I would like to start by saying that it's undeniable. This person, this child, is ass. Super mega ass. I genuinely have no idea how it could have possibly taken him so long, considering how much damage he's doing. Not even considering bleed proc, he only needed to hit this boss 10 times maximum to kill it. It took him 35 hours to hit this boss roughly 10 times, with a weapon that massively excels at closing distance. Now obviously this is just a kid, and I don't bring up this clip just to rag on him. I bring it up because Tarnished are ripping this kid and each other to shreds in the comments. Let's get into it. Okay, so No One, just to clarify, that's his literal name. No One comments, 35 hours with Bloodhound's Fang and summons? How did bro even get past Margit? Ooh, a decisive blow from No One. Nico follows up with Bloodhound Fang, lol. Ooh, but here comes a rebuttal from Cleo. Maybe people want to have fun. Cleo really out here using the absolutely timeless let people enjoy things technique. Then No One claps back with, did they not teach you reading comprehension in school? Over here we got Bugdog15 saying, the panic rolls into the Bloodhound Fang ability spam says a lot. Then we got Zach. Zach, ladies and gentlemen, Zach is here. And he's clapping back with, did you beat the game with fists only while rune level 1 with no upgrades, no summons or something? But then Dr. Jones comes in clutch saying, dude, come on, the guy's playing on super elite easy mode. We're allowed to make fun of him. You guys are not going to believe what happens next. The Shorty comes in saying, no, but I beat the game on a level 1 bow run, so what were you talking about? I also hold the second fastest speed run if we're talking game. Guys, I don't think we're dealing with regular gamers here anymore. I think we're dealing with serious elite gamers. Then we got Pokin in here, and he's got a DS3 profile picture, so you know he's serious. And he says, average Bloodhound Fang Ash of War spammer. Jeez, these guys are making fun of this poor kid more than I did. Let's find another example. That was a pretty funny clip. I cut it a little bit short because the relevant part is over. You can go check that guy out. I left his handle in. I follow him and he makes some pretty funny stuff. But anyway, let's look at some choice comments here. I wish Rivers of Blood users would learn that the weapon has moves besides L2. Wait, what? You can swing it like a normal sword? Smartest Rivers of Blood user. Just realized the host had an over-leveled phantom trying to carry him through the game. Skull emoji. Now maybe you're asking, Frog?
Where are you going with this shit?
Alright, let me explain. One of the biggest Elden Ring stereotypes is that players with weapons that have powerful arts of war, such as Rivers of Blood, Hand of Melania, Moonveil, etc., tend to over-rely on these flashy moves, which makes sense. If you're a new player and you're given a powerful tool that gets the job done every time, basic common sense says that you're always going to use it. But this mentality comes with its own set of issues. For instance, if you're used to relying on something to solve all your problems for you, then inevitably you're going to have problems when that thing becomes unavailable to you. Like when you run out of FP, or when you die, losing Godric's Great Rune, losing that 20 arcane needed to use the weapon. Oh, and just to be 100% clear, when I talk about players who are over-reliant on their Ashes of War, I really mean players who only know how to spam the Ash of War and absolutely nothing else. Spamming it over and over and over again, only resorting to anything else when they're absolutely forced to. So, if this doesn't describe you, congrats, you're not the one being described. If that makes you feel better. This reliance on Ashes of War also becomes a problem when you run into something or someone who is resistant to that Ash of War. For example, a player that knows how to counter. Skilled invaders will run into this type of player again and again and will begin to form a mental profile. I believe the word I used before was stereotype. And once these players have mentally stereotyped Rivers of Blood or Bloodhound Fang or Moonveil or Hand of Melania users as being categorically unskilled, what do you think happens when they see a video of someone using one of these weapons? That's right, they're gonna look for any excuse they can get to clown on them. And honestly, clowning was commonplace in this community before, but Elden Ring made things different. Much like Monster Hunter World did for its own franchise, Elden Ring is a streamlining of the Souls formula, with all the beginner-friendly new mechanics like spirit summons, infinite multiplayer, OP early game weapons. All this would open the floodgates to new players, which means that a giant amount of the player base is, well, newer players. People who have never touched a Souls game before Elden Ring, but who are getting into it based on recommendation. And, I don't know, bandwagons? What do you think happens when this massive group of players all feel attacked just for playing the game? That's right, they fight back, giving birth to glorious memes. And in this case, the meme created was Elden Ring players when blank.
It's wrong. It's all wrong!
Although, if I'm allowed to give an opinion on my own video, I don't really jive with the whole Elden Ring players when you use anything in the game mindset. Brother, there's 308 weapons in the damn game, and yet 90% of the clips I see on TikTok or YouTube feature one of these 3 weapons. And no one's saying you're not allowed to use it, but you are boring.
Welcome to the lands between, foul tarnished. What are you wielding?
How about Rivers of Blood? No, wait, I'll go with the Bloodhound's Fang. Wait, no. Maybe I'll go with Moonveil. Nah, never mind. Do you sell Mimic?
For fuck's sake, tarnished. Pick one.
Give me, Rivers of Blood.
How original.
With Corpse Piler.
Daring today, aren't we? Another Rivers of Blood.
Holy fuck, Squidward, I'm coming!
Anyway, that's the discussion around weapons, and dude, even I'm getting a little heated talking about this. Moving on, though, the next topic is co-op and invasions, and ooh boy. Remember that hypothetical player I keep bringing up? The one that just knows how to spam Rivers of Blood on everything? The one who is virtually helpless once he runs into a situation that mindlessly pressing L2 can't get him out of? Let's say that he's playing with his friend and they're both new to the game, just trying to get through it. They get invaded by a man called, oh, I don't know, Little Boy Smasher. Guess what happens to these 2 little boys? They get absolutely demolished because neither of them really knows what they're doing. I mean, they're both around level 50 and still don't know how to do much of anything that doesn't involve Rivers of Blood and the L2 button, which... You want to know something funny? People were actually purchasing weapons like Rivers of Blood and runes off of the internet, which is just... Fuck, dude. I felt like a no-skill when I was summoning way back in Dark Souls 3, and people are doing this nowadays? Good lord. What was I saying? Right, so because people tend to rely so hard on a single weapon instead of experimenting and trying different things, they're gonna get destroyed in PvP when they have to come against an actual competent player. And they feel cheated. They just wanted to co-op and beat some bosses together, but then the bad red man ruined their day because he's evil and mean. Yeah, so it seems like some people just don't like being invaded, but like, I have some advice. Just don't lose? Okay, I'll be serious. Seems like a lot of Elden Ring players out there are yearning for some kind of switch off for invasions. A way to opt out. And of course, these suggestions never go anywhere because invasions aren't going anywhere. And really, if you're being invaded, it either means you've opted in yourself using the Taunter's Tongue, or you're playing with friends, meaning it's at least a 2v1 against this poor invader. An invader, keep in mind, who has less ability to heal than you. Naturally, these poor Tarnished usually get ignored in their pleas for an invasion free mode. Like, just unplug your router, bro. Also, I just want to say as a little aside, isn't it just rich that a lot of the same people who are mad at invaders simply for invading are the same people, right, who get ragged on for using overpowered weapons and say, ugh, it's a feature in the game, I'm allowed to use it. Okay, buddy, well that's great, then we're allowed to invade you. Guess what? It's a feature in the game, we're allowed to use it. Not to mention, in almost every complaint I've ever seen regarding the bad red men, aka invaders, the anguished victim always seems to point out that the invaders are quote-unquote max level, which is something I'm quite tired of hearing. No, you weren't killed by a max level invader. You were killed by an invader that is at most 10 levels apart from you. What you are probably experiencing is a min-maxer. Or a twink, just someone with a specially curated build designed to kill you. Just because you're surprised Pikachu phase that they killed you, doesn't mean that they did it by cheating or something. You just need to get good, genuinely. But you know who can be max level? Summoned Phantoms! As long as you summoned them with a code, they can be any level with any grade of equipment and any spells. Oh, the game will certainly try to scale them down, but still, how are you going to complain about invaders with an advantage as staggering as that, Tarnished?
And also, while we're at it, another funny thing to mention is that there was someone somewhere at some point who had the sheer balls to compare invasions to, well...
Right!
Alright, we've talked about the people who complain over invasions, now to cover the people who complain over co-op. Because like I said before, there are people who just kind of want to play the game how they want to play it, whether they use co-op because they just want to meet up with some rando for jolly cooperation, or because they want to play with a friend, or because they just genuinely need help with a certain boss. And of course, third verse, same as the first, it becomes an argument of player choice versus the idea of the ideal experience. One side argues that it's their game and they should be able to play it however they feel like. The other side argues that to summon for a boss diminishes from the experience of playing a challenging game. Now, it's undeniable that co-op makes the game easier. I mean, come on, look at this guy squirm. But there's just something special about venturing through a Souls game with either a friend or somebody completely unknown to you. Soulsborne has always been a franchise all about overcoming hardship. One of the things I thought was super cool playing the series for the first time was that you can see the wispy silhouettes of players playing at the same time as you. It made you feel so much less alone, even less so to be able to call upon those strangers to help you in battle, but even if you do want to make the game easier by summoning, you do at least want to battle, right? Yeah, sometimes in Elden Ring you'll get a Phantom who is obviously massively overprepared. I believe this clip is everyone's favorite example, so yeah. Please don't be like this guy. Or do. Your game, I guess. Let's see here, next up on the agenda, Spirit Summons! Remember how we were just talking about co-op? Same issue here, because Spirit Summons are kinda broken. Or at least some of them are. Some of them become mega tanky when you max them, as in like, they have something like 10 times the health bar you have. And not only does using them not put you at risk of invasion, but it doesn't increase boss health like summoning another player does. I mean, look at this. I get why people get so mad over this. If I spent 30 hours trying to beat Millennia solo and then saw this, I'd be mad too. Not to mention, if you use a certain talisman to make the enemies focus on you, then summon your Mimic so he's wearing it, then unequip it, the boss will completely focus down your Mimic tier so that you can just sneak cheap shots at it from behind the entire time. So yeah, is it any surprise that there are people who would tell you that your victory was hollow because you used arguably the most broken strat in the game to win? I mean, I guess not. And I mean, it sounds like I'm so biased right now, but I swear I'm trying to be impartial. But like, speaking honestly, what can you say about this? I mean, look at this gameplay. Look at it. Look at it and tell me that his brain isn't being affected by the scarlet rot. Oh, comment section. Become my blade once more. Lol, my buddy did the exact same thing and he was proud. I couldn't be more disappointed. Why do you even care so much, Limphao? He bought the game, he can do whatever he wants. What are you, a broken record? Someone else said the exact same thing below. I see Mimic tier. Alas, McConnell did not beat the boss. He defeated Melania, end of story. Don't know why people are chewing him out for the way he did it.
Just stay back, pussy.
Mimic tier usage equals didn't count.
Why are you even up
Bot
there?
game equals can do whatever the fuck you want.
Whatever. Fuck
This was actually hilarious. Holy shit, his
Just
fucking
die.
desperation.
Just fucking die.
A W is a
Please
W.
Just fucking die.
Man
Please
used
just
the
fucking
zero
die.
skill build to beat her. Still took him like 4 hours, lol. Melania to Mimic tier, your strength is
Please
extraordinary.
Just fucking die.
Nothing impressive
Please
about
just
this.
fucking die.
Is this even a fight?
All
I don't
want you to
understand
do
how
is
some
die.
people can play
All I
like
want
that
you
and
to do
enjoy
is
it.
die.
If you die so
I
many
just want you to
times,
die.
you
I
stop
just want you
caring
to
and just
die.
want to beat
I
the
just
boss
want
no
you to
matter
die,
what.
Please.
Why do you
Please.
even care so much, Limfao? He bought the
Please.
game, he can do whatever he
Please
wants.
kill. Please kill.
I'm going to try to come to a conclusion about all of this here now. What you probably noticed about this video is that every single argument seems to go the same way. One side clowns the person in question for being quote-unquote unskilled, and the other side takes this person's defense and makes this very interesting argument that he bought the game and can do whatever he wants with it. Why is this interesting? Well, it's interesting to me because of just how common this point is. And it's a good counter-argument, but it's a counter-argument to a point nobody made. Not one person has ever said that it's illegal or like not allowed to use such strategies, only that winning with them is kinda hollow. So where oh where does this repetitive over and over he bought the game and can play it how he wants phrase come from? Because I find it a little hard to believe it or not, that these people are so genuinely militant about defending how some streamer played the video game of the month. So here's what I believe. This whole situation seems to be a giant, constant, ever-raging war of ego fought through other people's experiences. There's two sides. People who beat/played the game in a way that they deem to be skillful, i.e., I guess, not using summons, not using weapons commonly deemed as broken or overpowered, etc., etc. And there's people who did beat the game using those so-called noob means. Now, when the first group of players who see themselves as so above the others view another person winning in a way they deem unskilled, they attack. And they're attacking people for using very common strategies. Lots of people use the Mimic tier, and lots of people use strong weapons like Rivers of Blood. So, when those group 2 people who use those strategies see someone else getting made fun of for doing the exact thing they themselves do, they're, of course, going to get all insecure and start making excuses for some random stranger when really they're making excuses for themselves subconsciously. They'll say things like, he bought the game and he can play it how he wants, when what they really mean is, I bought the game and I can play it how I want. Or maybe I'm just looking way too deep into things, but holy hell, what a long video. In any case, that's all I really had to say, and yeah, I feel like this video is way more than long enough by now, so if you stuck with me and listened to me rant for the whole thing, thank you. I can only think to say thank you. I can't even begin to describe how much it means to me. Honestly, I don't understand how other YouTubers make 7-hour-long videos, because even just a 30-minute long video is like the amount of audio micromanaging and editing that has to go into even just something as long as this video is ridiculous. So I sure hope it pays off. I don't know. I'm not very good at closing videos, if you couldn't tell. So one last time, thank you. I love you. I'm gonna see you later. Alright? I'll talk to you later. Bye.